big progress made on the restoration of my drunken eBay purchased 1970 Dodge Charger. Roll titles. The last time we were looking at my 70 Charger, Steve was taking over from Tony and he had the trunk floor in and he was starting to weld the first front floor pan. So we'll pick things up right where we left off. What's going on?
This is to do the welding. It's called plug welding. You drill a hole and then fill it full of weld with the MIG. It would have been spot welded from the factory because it's in a box section. We can't do that. You could seam weld it along the edge, or not seam weld it. You could weld along the edge with a MIG. But it's as close to original as we can do because we can't spot weld, and it's nice and strong. Yeah, that's basically what it is. So I'll drill a number of holes, which you can see along there. They're about 8mm. Along here we'll cut it, and that will be a seam weld. Because we're joining the two panels together, there won't be an overlap there. So that'll be a seam weld joining the two panels, the floor to the tunnel, because we haven't got a complete floor. It's just two sections with the original tunnel. Yeah, most of the other welds are all going to be plug welds. There's nothing, I don't think, on here that I can get to spot weld properly. Turn that off.
It's easy to focus on the big panels, but there were lots of other areas that needed welding too. You had too much juice in that one, did you?
No, not enough.
Here at the bottom of the A-pillar and bulkhead junction, I filmed Steve welding sections together and then using the belt sander to smooth them out. Definitely not a prominent area of the vehicle, but still very important. This is all linked to the floor pan that you've just put in, right?
That bit's welded to the end of the floor. The floor's tucked under that, so we're welded through there. This panel is a filler panel. It's separate to the chassis leg and the inner seal, but that'll weld up that way, directly to the floor, but separate to this. So it just gives it a bit of more strength in this corner. It's not strong enough to jack on. That's only a single skin panel, but it's just all these little panels give it the main strength.
I was back at John's facility just 3 weeks later in September 2019, and Steve had made yet more progress.
The floor is now all welded in. This side is just being tidied up, the other side is still in bare metal so that you can see how and where it's welded. One inner tub is on, welded, the other one is resting on. Got to try the quarter panel on before we final weld that. The bulkhead, I'm doing a bit on that, a bit on the A-pillar, some patches, because it's pretty good, pretty solid. So yeah, it's coming along okay. The boot floor is all on, welded on and tidied. So it's moved on quite a bit, it's looking good.
And have things gone quite smoothly?
I have, yeah. The tub fitted in there nicely. The last one I did on the Camaro was a nightmare, but these have all been, touch wood, good. I've had to cut the quarter panel a little bit, but that may have been where it's been standing. But yeah, nothing much, so it's all good so far, yeah, good quality stuff, which makes it a lot easier. Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
Originally I thought the trunk floor was, I thought, oh, it's only the trunk floor, it doesn't really matter. But then, John explained, it's like, listen, you might as well buy a big new one, because for the hours that we're going to put in to make that right, yeah, it's more, basically cost effective and better.
It's a big gamble. When you're patching a car, bits that look okay, especially if they're in a box section, might not be. So it's worth it in the long run. It is a gamble patching, whereas a new floor, you know where you are. It's new, so it's going to be good. Yeah, it's quite a lot of work. There's a lot of welds around there, across and down, and the outrigger sections. So it's quite a lot of work, but it's, as I say, it's as good as new. That tub is just bolted in place because I haven't actually had the quarter panel on there yet. The other side, or you can't see it, is welded on. But yeah, it all looks nice, all fits nice. So hopefully, if the quarter panel just goes on there, then that'll all weld on. I've done the lock panel. That's all welded in and cleaned up now. Yeah, it's progressing pretty well.
Brilliant. I'm loving it.
Well, I'm pleased with it. I hope you are.
I am, mate. I'm tickled. I am absolutely tickled. Look at this. Wow. I can see it all coming together. So for the first time, you know, John explained to me, and I've seen this on Gas Monkey and everything, you know, you've got to strip the car down and it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
So now we're at the stage where things are slowly starting to get better.
Once, especially with the bigger panels, once some of the panels start going on and it starts looking like a car again, yeah, it's an interesting time. I mean, you're looking at the floor, all the big holes that were there have now gone, and it's nice, new, fresh metal. And the more you get on there, the better it'll start to look. And then once you get to that stage, the filler, it looks like nothing's happening again, because that obviously takes some time, but this isn't going to need anywhere near as much as that, because the panels are better. So yeah, it's progressing well.
And then here's the thing that confuses me. You've had to put the sheet metal down, and yet you've still had to go over it. Why would you need to do that? Because I don't understand. You've got filler on this one over here.
It's just to tidy it up. Where you're hammering and welding, it's literally just to skim over it. I don't want to grind too much out of them with the plug welding. It's not the same as a spot weld, so all that does is smooth it out, but it's literally just a light blend it over. It gets rid of all the grinding marks. You can see in the shadows on there the grinding marks. All I'll do is put a wipe a bit of filler across there, same as here, and it seals it off nicely. Wow. So it's just finishing it off really.
And then what do you think about that dodgy wing I've got? Is that going to be a problem for you, or?
This one looks nice. As I say, I've had to cut that a little bit, but hopefully it won't be too much. So it's better than nothing. It's better than having to patch up an old one. So yeah, hopefully it'll be okay. There may be a few issues, but nothing we can't sort out.
Because there's nothing you can't do, right?
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, we'll get there.
No, but what I was talking about was the accident damaged front wing.
I haven't got as far as the front wings yet. I'll get. I'm working on the A-pillar at the moment. Once that's patched up and a couple of bits on the engine bay, then I'll put the front end on. The doors are about, I think, where they want to be. So the next thing after them little patches are done, will be to put the wings and bonnet on there, and yeah, it'll look even more like a car.
I can't wait for
You'll
that.
be driving it up the road.
So huge progress has been made, but Steve also had to work on that bulkhead area as before. What have you been doing here at the front of the sill?
Just replacing some of the section, a little bit on the A-pillar and a little bit on the front section of the sill panel. I'll take it up there. The main part of the sill actually is pretty good. It was just a little bit of section behind the wing where obviously the moisture sat, and it wasn't bad. It was a little bit perforated, so it's better to cut it out, and it's done then, nice and solid again. I'll put a skim of filler over that just to finish it off nicely. It was a bit worse than it at first looked, so I've cut this A-pillar out first, and as I started cleaning up the sill, that started to perforate, so I then cut that out. Yeah, cleaned it up, put some rust protector underneath on the bits that we can get to inside there, and then I've done it actually in 3 little panels. a bit there, the front part of the sill and then the main part of the sill. Weld them on, some plug weld, some seam weld, and a butt weld where it's joined to the original sill panel. Yeah, as I say, just a bit of filler on the end there now, just to cover up the joins and seal off the plug welds, and that's about it really. It's all nice and solid, rust proofed and ready to go.
Hopefully you know by now my sponsors Year One are offering up to 20% off selected parts. Just go to year1.com and enter the promo code TORQUE, TORQUE, to take advantage of this offer because it will not last forever. Oh, and please remember to visit talkamerican.com or the Talk American YouTube page where you will find all our other episodes. Okay, back to the restoration of my Charger. Steve's boss, John Castleman, gave me some of his time to give us an overview of this project, especially with regard to the previously rotten back end of this vehicle.
Well, you know, cutting these floors out is not a nice job at the best of times. You know, as you know, anyone can cut the big sections out, but it's unpicking it all from the chassis legs and the back panel. You know, on this car, we've had to keep this panel as well, the back light panel, because you didn't want a new one, and this is good, so it's worth doing. But it all has to be unpicked, so that takes a bit of time. You know, we're not putting tubs in this inner tub, so unpicking it around there. And of course, it's had some welding, previous old welding, which is horrible before, so of course unpicking all that takes time. So, you know, there's 2 or 3 weeks work going on there. Plus, you know, everything else we're trying to do. The chassis, if you remember back in the early videos, all the chassis was pretty bad on this. We've cleaned it up, we've welded up bits and pieces on it, made good. And that's taken a little while. And just like I say, before we get involved in putting the floor in, we've had to make good the back sections. We've had to make good inside these box sections as well at the back, because they were absolutely rotten. So we've had to do that sort of first, and that's how we wanted to do it on there, and get these little bits welded up both sides. And as we know from doing inside the back, what happens is it's come out to the tub the other side, because all that in there was absolutely rotten. So that's all had to be done. So with a new sound panel on it, a bit of plating, because we're not putting a complete quarter on the other side. There's a little bit of work, as you can see from that side. There's a little bit of work to do up there, which we'll have to attend to. We've obviously laid the floor in there now, so that's sort of bolted in there to the chassis, which has been repaired. So I'm guessing in the next coming weeks we'll have all the back starting to weld up. We've welded up on the inner arches, on the inner tubs. We didn't replace the tubs on this. We plated up in there. They're all welded in now, so that's all good. As you can see from the other side, it's all been welded up, plated and repaired.
If you were watching earlier episodes, you'll know I sold the small quarter panel that came with the car onto Jack for use on his white top 68 Charger, but I couldn't get the newer larger quarter for this side of my car, so I requested a small 68 quarter and I swapped that back with Jack. However, using this old panel had meant implications to the rebuild and the budget.
We've just laid this quarter on the car to see what it was going to look like, try and get some idea of what we're going to do with it. As you know, these are the early quarters from year one. Not as good quality as what they are today, but it's better than the old one. So we're going to make good this and get it welded on there. We're going to have to work on this a little bit this quarter, because it's completely, just out of shape a little bit, but that'll be fine once we get it all welded in there and beat it up and done.
There's obviously a lip on this now. What's the process?
Well, Steve's just bolted it on there roughly at the moment, but what'll happen is he'll get it all lined up where he actually wants it, and then what he'll do, he will cut this panel and the inner panel together. So they're cut right through, probably as close to this top seam as possible to try and keep the distortion out a bit. And then we just cut through both, and then that panel will fit flush to the under panel. And then we will just weld along in stages to keep the distortion down, and then sand back and make good.
So
We would never weld that over the top of that. That wouldn't happen.
not like it was on the other
Not
side.
like it was on the other side.
So roughly how many hours to make this quarter good on put it in place on the car, just to put it in place?
To put a quarter on there, weld it on, make good, I would think we're probably looking a good week's work. A good week's work.
40 hours.
Yeah, easy. I mean, we've cut the one off already, so we've cut the wing off where we needed to cut it off. Now we've got to make good. We've got to cut these seam down because it's too wide here. We're going to have to weld it in and make good. We're going to have to get some, we're going to have to weld up this edge to bring the gap closer in this side. You know, the back of it is just too round. It's not quite the right shape there. So we're going to have to make that good. You know, it's going to be a week's work there, easy. And that's not doing any of the repairs on it. It's quite a lot of work. But you know, we've done quite a bit of the work because we've cut and cleaned up a little bit on the inside already. So there's still some bits and pieces we're going to have to do with this.
But it's coming together.
But it is coming together, you know. I mean, it's looking good.
Please click on the subscribe button. It's free to do so and helps us build up our audience. Also, please share this video with your friends on social media, and while you are there, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook to get new video alerts and extra content. And remember, check out talkamerican.com and please post a comment underneath this video and click that like button. So big progress made on my charger in this episode, so much more to come. Please keep on watching where we'll talk again soon, but for now it's bye bye.